Welcome back, you guys. How you all doing today? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lines TV, and in today's News Daily video, I'm going to break down the 3 big stories today. Now, this video is going to be centered a lot around Jorginho, because there have been multiple reports coming out from Italy suggesting a return back to Serie A for Jorginho, so I'll break those stories down. And for the last story, I'm going to discuss the future of Hakim Ziyech. More reports are coming out from Italy suggesting that Milan and Juventus are strongly monitoring a player we only just signed this window, so this is going to be an interesting News Daily video. I hope you guys do enjoy. Of course, don't forget I have released a match review of last night's 1-0 win against Barnsley, so give that a watch, you guys. And now, to start with the first story, let's discuss Napoli showing interest in re-signing a player that they sold to us. Now, these Jorginho exit links, they keep resurfacing, they keep coming up again, and a lot of times this is because it comes from very interesting quotes from Jorginho's agent in Joao Santos. Now, already last month, Joao Santos expressed that Jorginho and him are going to reassess what happens this summer, and this potentially hints at Jorginho wanting to depart the club. So let's break down the quotes that came out from his agent, let's discuss and find out what was said. But to give these quotes even more context, basically Maurizio Sarri, he is now a popular man in demand again. Both Inter Milan and both Napoli are showing interest in hiring Sarri in the next window. At Inter Milan, Conte's position is in doubt right now due to poor signings recommended due to being knocked out by Juventus in the Italian Cup too. And with Napoli, they're kind of underperforming under Gennaro Gattuso and they're interested in rehiring Sarri themselves. So now that we know the context, let's break down these quotes that came from Joao Santos. As Jorginho's agent said, Sarri again at Napoli, football is dynamic. Nothing can be excluded. If Sarri returns, they might make some attempts to bring Jorginho back too. He likes them, he's perfect for the manager's game. I don't exclude anything. Now, Jorginho's agent ends the interview by stating he still has 2 years left on his contract with Chelsea. He is a start with the Italian national team, and with a good project, he would return to play in Italy. Now, straight off the bat, you guys, is this big proof, big evidence that Jorginho himself is contemplating a return back to Serie A. Now, a lot of times, reports have suggested that the club were the ones, putting him up for sale. The reality was, last season, Lampard made it clear that maybe Jorginho was not in his plans. However, Mourinho, the board and the club, they didn't have those same ideas. Could this be evidence and proof that Jorginho is contemplating a return back to Serie A after the Euros? Now, there could be a strong possibility behind this. I'm sure when Jorginho signed for us, he wasn't expecting to retire at this club. I'd imagine that he came to sign for us in the hopes of winning silverware, winning trophies, etc, furthering his career. Now that he's done that, now that his clout is high up right now, playing in Tuchel's possession-heavy style game, it seems like Jorginho could have a ton of interest back in Serie A. As Jorginho's agent states, if Jorginho finds a project he likes, this could be Jorginho himself deciding yes, it's time to return back to Serie A, and with interest from both Inter Milan, from Napoli, 2 clubs that could afford to pay his wages, allowing him to return back to a league where he made his name. Of course, having that Italian citizenship too, you'd imagine for his own personal reasons, personal life reasons, he could be contemplating making that return back for the sake of his family. Yeah, I know you guys, this is pure projection from my part, but I'm trying to understand those end quotes because, again, this kind of tells me that it would be entirely down to the player if he decides whether to remain or whether to leave. And now, you guys, I got to pose this question to you. Are you keeping Jorginho, or do you think it's the right time to sell? Comment below, state your reasons, let us know why. And now, we turn things towards the second story. Again, this is focused on Jorginho, and reports came out from Calcio Masato, and it states that Inter Milan are showing interest in signing Jorginho. Now, when you consider the first story that I spoke about in today's video, Sarri is going to be the deciding factor when it comes to a possible Jorginho sale. Now, let's cast our minds back to the summertime when clubs like Arsenal showed interest, but the main interest coming from Italy came from Juventus and came from Roma. Back with Juventus, that was at the time when Sarri was still the manager, and you'd imagine that Sarri felt like if he could have signed Jorginho, a player more suited to playing that reducer role compared to your Pjanic's and other players like this, he could have made a big difference in helping to get that midfield working, thus bringing Sarri's Sarri ball ideas to life. Now, the second that Sarri was dismissed from Juventus, so did those Jorginho links too. So this gives you the indication that depending on whether Sarri signs for Napoli again or accepts the challenge at Inter Milan, there's a massive possibility that Jorginho plays a big part in his plans. Right now at Inter Milan, there are some reservations that they do have about Antonio Conte after getting knocked out by Juventus in the Italian Cup after, signing players that Conte vouched for too. Due to not finding that success, it seems like there's doubts in regards to Conte staying at the end of the season with Inter Milan. And one of the big issues was the signing of Eriksen, who has had a very hit and miss start to his career in Serie A. Now, at this point in time, Eriksen is being played more as a deep line playmaker, and due to that, he has found some form back again, but it's not showing the same form in which Inter Milan did sign him from Tottenham, even though around that time, let's keep things real, his form at Tottenham kinda went down a tiny bit too. So you guys, this takes us back to the reports, and it seems like Inter Milan are considering doing a player exchange, a player swap deal involving Eriksen and Jorginho. Now, the reports claim that the club have held talks, and I guess maybe with how football is, clubs, owners, they're currently being met with proposals, inquiries, left, right and centre, and it's not like you just ignore them. I mean, you're going to respect the person who's having that talk with you. You're going to, discuss whatever details matters. And it seems like the club are open to that, which again could possibly suggest that Jorginho may feel it's time to move on at the end of the season. Now, this is where things don't align. It seems like Inter Milan value both Jorginho and Eriksen at around 50 million. And the club, of course, don't see things the same way. If a swap deal was to happen, they'd want between an extra 15 to 20 million on top of this player swap deal. So, I mean, for me, in my opinion, both these players are 29 years old. Eriksen is he demanded ridiculous wages. I mean, we can't forget this January, he had the possibility of returning back to Tottenham on loan and to sign for Leicester City on loan too. So, he's clearly valued here in the Premier League. However, his wage demands of close to 300,000 a week was ultimately the things that put an end to those loan moves happening. And you'd imagine that Eriksen, if he had a possibility to sign for us, I mean, his demands ain't going down. I mean, let's keep it real. His demands are going to stay at that same level. And it gets me thinking, only N'Golo Kante is earning close to that amount of money, and he is one of the best in his position. Does this make sense to, command this type of money, and then on the wage bill, you're paying like, what, 15 million a season to keep Eriksen? It doesn't make any sense. And considering that we have so many players in this position already, considering we have players that play the cam position in your Hakim Ziyech's, your Kai Havertz's, your Mason Mounts, etc., I feel like this would be a case of overkill. And even though Eriksen is playing more as a CM these days, I feel like we need a different profile of DM, of CM in the team for next season. I don't think that should be Eriksen due to the price, the costs, and for me, I feel like he's on the decline a tiny bit. But again, I have to pose this question to you guys. How do you feel about this news? It feels like there's a lot of talks about Italian clubs showing interest in our players. Do any of you guys see any sense behind this possible swap deal? If so, state why. If not, also state your reasons too. And now you guys, to end things with the final report today, it centers around Hakim Ziyech, and reports from Italy again suggest that both AC Milan and Juventus are showing interest to possibly sign Ziyech on loan for next season. Now, I mean, of course, Italian clubs, loan deals, it's their bread and butter. That's what they live for, basically. They absolutely love it. And you'd imagine due to Ziyech's inconsistent start to his career so far, that there's a possibility to, hold some talks to try and talk to the player to persuade him that, life in Italy could be what you need. Now, I have to give my opinion straight away because the reports were not substantial. They weren't substantial whatsoever, and for me, could we even consider doing something like this? I mean, this season, Ziyech has played 19 games, he's got 2 goals and 4 assists. Now, he really started to come alive before he picks up that injury back during the start of December. And I feel like ever since then, he has struggled to find his fitness, resulting in his form fluctuating too. And now that Tuchel has been here, we haven't seen Ziyech being given those same opportunities. I mean, games like last night against Barnsley where he struggled against the physicality, against the conditions of the field too. I mean, for me, in my opinion, I think there's some context behind it. Ziyech has been getting injuries left, right and center, slowing the progress of his season down. So I'd imagine that he was not looking to take any risks. He was playing with precaution in yesterday's game. And yeah, it was no surprise that eventually he had to get subbed off. But for me, most of the games that Ziyech has played this season have been games in which he's able to get his match fitness back and hopefully find some form again. We haven't seen the consistent, real deal Ziyech throughout the season. If the plan was to sell him, on a hypothetical one, you guys, I mean, I'd imagine that we'd be able to get our money back for the player because he has a lot of clout. He is a ridiculous player. And for me personally, one thing that I've noticed this season is that a lot of new signings that were signed from abroad, they have struggled in particular this season in the Premier League. And for me, I mean, the times naturally reflect this. I mean, COVID has really affected all sports and all areas. And all I want to say to this, and I'm going to speak about Ziyech in more detail in my talking points video that is going to come out later today, you guys. Ziyech, you know, his season at Ajax, we know that their season got suspended and ended very quickly. I mean, he's barely played football for nearly a year. And then during pre-season against Brighton, picks up an injury which takes him out for a few months, and then since then he's just been getting small niggles and knocks. And as Tuchel himself stated, you know, he had to keep Ziyech out the team because there were fears that he was overloading himself. And I think naturally when you haven't been able to play football for close to a year, as I'm stressing, the Eredivisie season was cancelled during the start of the year due to COVID, and for sure it's going to take a toll on your physicality, your conditioning, etc, etc. And in the comments below, leave yours. Do you feel like if Ziyech was potentially sold, it's because the plan have a grand plan to potentially sign other players as replacements? Or do you feel like this would be nonsensical to even consider allowing a player like Ziyech to leave? I mean, you guys, you've got a comment below. And on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving, because I have a talking points video to finish and get edited, you guys. Busy day on the channel as always. It's going to be even busier tomorrow and busier throughout this entire month. I mean, these 8 PM kickoff games, you guys, they're just, I mean, I can't really fuss, I can't complain. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk about the club I love for a living. So, and right now it's hard times for many people. So just ignore my venting, you guys. It's not that deep. And on that note, I'm ERIKSEN. This is Blue Lines TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.